Good morning, guys, and it's Tuesday, and this morning I have another story about the 10 plagues. And just like with our fairy tale stories, there's different versions. There's also different children's versions of Bible stories as well. But before we start to listen, I want you to think about a rock and how it feels. When you hold a rock in your hand, how does it feel? Is it soft or is it hard? It's hard. Now, I want you to think about a sponge, like a sponge that mom or dad might use to clean the dishes. Is a sponge hard or is it soft? That's right, a sponge is soft. So as I'm reading the story, I want you to remember that a rock is hard and a sponge is soft. So let me share my screen real quick. All right, the plagues of Egypt. Moses obeyed God and went to Pharaoh with the message God gave him. Let the Israelites go. But Pharaoh said no. Moses went to the water of the river and touched it. Instantly, it turned into blood. No one could drink the water from the river. The Egyptians were very thirsty. But Pharaoh's heart hardened. I will not let your people go. So his heart hardened. What do you think that means? His heart was like a rock, right? Hard, doesn't feel so good. Okay, so Pharaoh's heart is hard. 7 days passed. God told Moses to go back to Pharaoh. Moses said to him, God says, let my people go, or your country will be covered in frogs. Pharaoh said no. The whole land was covered in frogs. Pharaoh called Moses. I will let your people go if you get rid of the frogs. Moses did, but Pharaoh's heart hardened. I changed my mind. I will not let your people go. God made all the dust of Egypt into gnats. All day and night they buzzed, but Pharaoh's heart was hard. He would not listen. Then God sent flies, but only to the Egyptians. The Israelites had no flies. Pharaoh and his people were very unhappy. I will let you make your sacrifices, but you must not go far. Moses prayed and the flies left. Do you think Pharaoh's heart hardened again? Do you think his heart is hard because he's not listening and he says he will let the people go, but then he doesn't? Yes, he refused to let the Israelites go. Moses warned Pharaoh that God would strike down his livestock next. Livestock give us meat and milk and cheese, like the animals. But Pharaoh refused to obey God's command. All his livestock died, but the animals of the Israelites were fine. Then God sent boils. Boils are very bad spots that they had all over their bodies. The Egyptians were in pain and very unhappy. But Pharaoh said, I will not let your people go. Next was the hail. Hail is ice that falls like rain, but this hail was worse than other hails. If it struck animals or people, they would die. It destroyed plants and trees. Pharaoh called Moses and Aaron. I have sinned. And remember, sinning is when we make a choice that's not good. I have sinned. Please pray and make the hail go away. I will let you go. So again, he's telling Moses and Aaron, I'll do what you asked. And if you make everything disappear, I will do what you ask, and the Israelites can be free. So Moses did, but Pharaoh's heart hardened again. I will not let you go. Moses told Pharaoh that God would send locusts. Locusts eat everything green. Pharaoh's helpers said to him, let his people go. All of Egypt is destroyed. So now Pharaoh's workers even want him to let the Israelites go because there's no green grass, there's no animals. and there's no water. Moses stretched out his staff, and the locusts came. Everything green in Egypt was eaten up. Still, Pharaoh's heart was hardened. Then God made a great darkness fall all over Egypt. No one could see or move for 3 days. Pharaoh called Moses, "I will let you go, but your animals remain here." Moses said, "We need them to worship God." Pharaoh's heart grew still harder. "Get out of my sight," he said. Moses warned Pharaoh that God had one more plague. It was the very worst of them all. Unless Pharaoh obeyed, the oldest son of every family would die. Only those who put blood on their doors would be saved. Do you think Pharaoh obeyed? Sadly, he refused to listen to God. So God did what he had promised. The Egyptians were very sad because God had punished them for disobeying. Pharaoh called Moses and said, "Go, you are free. Leave us alone." Moses and all of the people of Israel left Egypt. God had freed them from slavery. It is always important to obey God. All right, so I want you to think. Has there ever been a time when your heart has been hard? When you haven't maybe made the best choices, or maybe you haven't been kind to someone? And now I want you to think of a time when your heart has been soft, like Moses, and listening and obeying, because we should all want hearts like Moses, right? To be kind to everybody, to be helpful, to obey God and our parents, because if we don't obey, then there's usually a consequence. All right, so I want you to think about that today. Make sure today that your heart is soft like Moses is. All right, and I'll see you guys soon.